The executive branch's emergency arrest. According to Ways of Survival, emergency arrest was only possible when a Dokkaebi acted in a manner that severely violated the probability of a scenario. Intermediate Dokkaebi Paul. From now on, you'll be led to the executive branch. You'll remain silent about all scenarios and be deprived of all progress in the main scenarios. The expression of the intermediate Dokkaebi Paul kept changing. You will lose the achievement points of all the scenarios you have built up and will be demoted to a low-grade Dokkaebi after your punishment. Demoted? Wait a minute! The intermediate Dokkaebi Paul hurriedly shouted. He made an unfair expression and looked at the Dokkaebis around him. A sudden demotion? Shouldn't you tell me what I did well? Are you asking because you don't know? Another Dokkaebi of the executive branch asked. Paul hesitated for a moment at the dignified voice before continuing. I don't know. What the hell did I do wrong? He even had the audacity to move forward. Look at the constellations. Aren't they happy? Didn't the scenario end brilliantly? The executive Dokkaebi frowned at Paul's confident words. There's no problem with the probability. I used the scenario enforcement with the consent of the constellations, and the constellation also. This is a problem with the streamers. They sing the songs of the constellations. Not all Dokkaebis respected the constellations. It was because among the Dokkaebis of the executive branch, there were some who had once been constellations. They were constellations, but they lost their characteristics and were forced to live as Dokkaebis. They were the Dokkaebis of the executive branch. Paul continued, despite his customers being insulted. Your words are going too far. Don't panic, Paul. You may be an enforcer, but I can't tolerate insults to my customers. Paul rode the momentum and continued. I can guess why the executives came here. It's because I use the enforcement rights. The scenario enforcement can only be used when the majority of constellations support the probability of the scenario. I'm aware of that. Otherwise, there's a risk of a probability storm. But the constellation's satisfaction is high. Satisfaction? Paul, look at yourself and tell me. Paul looked down at himself and paled. This... The space around him was filled with blue sparks. It was the forerunner of a probability storm. Why am I receiving a probability storm? The probability storm was a punishment for going against the flow. The probability of the world now wanted to erase Paul's existence. The enforcer Dokkaebis laughed. The enforcement right is a power that demands the greatest amount of probability from a Dokkaebi. Did you think you would be safe using the authority for such a crude development? That isn't the case! Paul, you had a chance to end this scenario without using the executive rights. It was a fresh development. I had never seen it before. Why did you stop it? Thanks to your brutality, an emergency was dropped on the Soul Dome's bureau. No, wait a minute. I exercised the enforcement rights according to the opinion of the constellations. Paul looked around. Constellations? Didn't you agree with my development? However, no constellations answered. Constellations? The numerous indirect messages from the constellations died out. Unbelievable. Why? All the constellations who supported his development had left the Korean channels. The executive frowned. You stupid fool. Can't you see that the constellations are gone? Many of the constellations who wanted to kill me, who had instigated him, had left the Korean peninsula in large numbers, once it turned into a drama. It was natural. It was strange to keep watching when an unwanted development occurred. In fact, Bi-Hyung's channel lost a third of its subscribers. The remaining ones were the constellation Demon Light Judge of Fire is looking at the intermediate Dokkaebi Paul. The constellation Prison of the Golden Headband is chuckling at the intermediate Dokkaebi Paul. The constellation Secret of Plotter is mocking the intermediate Dokkaebi Paul. They were all constellations who didn't agree with the intermediate Dokkaebi's development. No, I can't be destroyed in this way. Executive! Don't worry. You won't be destroyed. What does that mean? A glimmer of hope appeared on Paul's face. The executive Dokkaebi said something that turned that light completely. He'll be given a worse punishment than destruction. Our bureau received a large probability debt because of you. The executives will use Dokkaebi Paul's redemption code. Then the body of the Dokkaebi Paul was forcibly pulled into the world. The intermediate Dokkaebi Paul trembled. His true voice emerged because he lost his broadcasting rights. This is a conspiracy. Can't be like this. Then Bi-hyung spoke from beside him. This is why you don't want to finish a scenario quickly. Bi-hyung! In the end, Paul exploded. Paul had the redemption code and pointed at Bi-hyung. Executives, arrest him as well! I have evidence that his channel broke the rules of the Star Stream. He will naturally come along as well. Paul's expression brightened. However, people of Korea knew that people should listen to the end. Because he's the Dokkaebi who called us. What? Don't tell me. Yes, the Dokkaebi who reported you as Bi-hyung. Bi-hyung briefly waved to the red-eyed Paul. The executive smiled coldly. Dokkaebi Bi-hyung. He's a very good Dokkaebi. Look at his humility. He has the integrity of a streamer who ignores everything and immerses himself in the scenarios. It's different from you, the Dokkaebi who only wears luxurious clothing. Bi-hyung had a shy expression on his face. He didn't know his poverty would help him out in this way. No, that guy, Bi-hyung is... Shut up! Paul screamed terribly from where he was tied to the redemption code. The executive Dokkaebi kept talking. You've been punished twice before. This is your third time. You're familiar with the third punishment, right? This is ridiculous. Do you think my superiors will allow this? You're making a mistake right now. If you touch me, I'll listen to your bullshit after going to the bureau. A glowing portal appeared in the air. It was finally time to say goodbye to the intermediate Dokkaebi. Perhaps I wouldn't see him in future scenarios anymore. Paul's eyes glared at me. A flame burned inside of me the moment I met his eyes. The fourth wall is shaking due to your high emotions. The Shin Yusung of the future had scattered into ash. She might have been saved if it wasn't for the intermediate Dokkaebi. She can never return to her time, but she might have been able to live in this new world. The intermediate Dokkaebi trampled on that last possibility. That was why I opened my mouth. Wait a minute. He might receive the death punishment, but I couldn't be satisfied. My words shocked my party members. Are you calling us? The Dokkaebis were surprised. They didn't expect an incarnation to stop the Dokkaebis of the executive branch. The executive Dokkaebi looked at me quietly and opened his mouth. That's right. You're the incarnation Kim Dokja, right? The other executive Dokkaebi laughed. Do you know this person? He's a famous incarnation in this area. He's one of the strongest incarnations on the peninsula, but he hasn't signed with a sponsor. Oh. I watched the leisurely Dokkaebis and spoke to Bi-hyung through the Dokkaebi communication. Bi-hyung, I'll give you 100,000 coins. What? Bi-hyung's eyes widened. Promote me to a platinum member of the Dokkaebi bag. No, why all of a sudden? Just do it. Shit. I looked at the executives and rushed Bi-hyung. Bi-hyung sighed and started manipulating something in the air. 100,000 coins have been consumed. Congratulations! You become a platinum member of the Dokkaebi bag. Originally, there'd be splendid special effects for the promotion, but I asked Bi-hyung to admit it. Unlike the gold membership that could be obtained for 5,000 coins, the treatment of platinum members were different. Yes, Incarnation Kim Dokja. Why did you call us? The executives didn't know about my promotion and asked me again. These Dokkaebis were really big, and I was nervous facing them. They might have fallen, but some of them were originally great people. I breathed lightly and opened my mouth. I'm requesting the Dokkaebi solo meeting right. What? The executive Dokkaebis were confused by my words. Then laughter soon emerged. Only platinum members can ask for the solo meeting right. Don't tell me. That's right. Please check it. The two Dokkaebis looked at each other again. They manipulated the system to identify a few things, and soon let out a cry of amazement. It's real. How can an incarnation become a platinum member? Aren't I qualified now? The executives hesitated for a moment before nodding. That's right. What do you want to do with the solo meeting right? The platinum qualifications allow you to meet with a senior Dokkaebi. The appointment schedule, I don't want that. The Dokkaebi I want is currently with you. I pointed a finger at the Dokkaebi I wanted. I want a solo meeting with the intermediate Dokkaebi Paul.